everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Sanya Richards Ross.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. How are you today? What's going on? How is the ATL doing today?
Oh, it's good. It's been quite a day, but I'm excited because we're 2 weeks away from the launch of our season 15. So it's exciting.
Season 15, RHOA, it's your second season. Like, how did this season going into it, and how did the season feel different for you?
Oh man, it was a big difference. I think that, you have all these expectations as to what it's going to be like season one, and then you go and it's like completely different. So, there's an ease to going into it the second time around because I understand how it works. And I actually built real friendship with the ladies before starting to film season two. And so I think that also makes it better, right? Because now you can be more of yourself and they understand you. And we just felt more settled as a group. And I really appreciated that.
Did you go in more relaxed, like you said? Because I could see it working one of two ways. I could see it being like, well, now I know what to expect. Or like, wait a second, with this group, you have to be on guard at all times.
No, I went in more relaxed. I was like, you know what? You can't take yourself too seriously on this show. Like, you got to have fun with it. And if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it. So it's like, I just went in, had fun, knew more of what to expect, spoke up more. And yeah, I really had a good time.
What's something you learned from season 14 from your first season? Like, what did you learn?
I think the main thing is, just not to be in your head. I think the best way to show up on the show is to, pretend like cameras aren't there and make every moment as real as possible. And I think sometimes, and obviously you try to do that, but sometimes you're like, oh, like, I don't want to say that because, it's like when you start doing that, forget it. It's like, you're no longer having like that real experience. And so for me, it was just about that, getting out of my head, having fun, saying how I felt, and just, and just being really present in the moment. And I think that made season 15 better for me.
Well, we saw, season 14, one of the takeaways, you came in, you were friends with Drew before, you guys kind of, we had a reunion, at the reunion, you said she was the one person you weren't necessarily speaking to. Like, where are you guys as we head into, season 15?
Yeah, so, that was for me one of the very important conversations that we needed to have, was at the top of season 15. And we have a really important conversation. And we end up in a better space. I felt like Drew owned up to some of the things that she did that made our relationship go off track. And, it helps us a lot. So we end up in a better space, which I'm happy about, especially with everything that she has going on. Forgive me if the kids are a little bit loud. They had been quiet all day. And now they're just,
I can't even hear them. But we've had lots of kids here. We've had lots of dogs.
Okay, good.
So like,
okay,
but
perfect.
I can't hear them at all.
Okay, good.
Who shocked you the most? Like either good or bad? Like who kind of shocked you this season?
I would say kind of Kandi has a shocking season, like it's like a lot happens with Kandi, like right out the gate, and I feel like it takes a lot to get Kandi going, but once she's going, she is going. And so I would say maybe Kandi had probably one of the more shocking seasons this year. And then Sheree, boy, I tell you, she knows how to pick them, always bringing some spice, always bringing some spice to the group. And so I think Sheree has a great season too.
Well, we did see from the trailer, it seems like Kandi does have like kind of a lot going on this season. It seems like her and Marlo, she said that she was crying, because she can't choke your ass, bitch. Et cetera, et cetera. Kandi and Marlo, they have one of the longest standing friendships out of this whole current group. Like, what is going on with these two?
Yeah, and it makes me so sad because they're the two I actually come in with the strongest connection with. Kandi and I went on a family vacation over the break, and Marlo and I hang out all the time. So all was well with the world until they like have this huge unexpected fight. And I'm like, no. Because they both will say, oh, I don't care if you have friends, but they care. They care. And it makes it such a tricky dynamic. But like you said, they do have the longest standing friendship. And I do think that somehow they find a way, but it's just, it takes some time.
Who do you think is like the more amenable out of those two to like make things work between the two of them? Like, who is kind of the one that's like, I want to throw in this towel and just let's make this work?
I think, it's a good question. I think that Marlo is the one who probably is like, let's just let bygones be bygones and move forward. But I think, but in some ways, I think Kandi's like Kandi, unlike Kenya, right? Because the reason Kenya and Marlo can't ever really see eye to eye a lot of times is because Kenya doesn't really want to make it work, right? She's kind of like over it. So as much as I think Marlo is cool with becoming friends with Kandi, I think Kandi's always open to it too. And that's why they always find their way back. But it's just not the same case with, Kenya and Marlo for whatever reason.
Do you think Marlo and Kandi would make amends and be on the same page way before Kenya and Marlo?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Kenya does seem like, no offense, she's over it. And Marlo seems to know that Kenya's over it too.
Yeah, I think she starts to really see that this year. I feel like it's in the back of Marlo's mind, she feels like, oh, eventually we'll get to a good place. But this season, it becomes really clear that they're not really on track to getting to that place. And I think they're both at peace with it.
Do you think that, like, are you in the middle a lot? Just because, like you said, you are very close with Kandi, you're close to Marlo. Do you feel in the middle between these two?
Oh, yeah, a lot. Yeah, I definitely feel it's crazy because I have such good friendships with everybody kind of individually, but then the group dynamic is always very tricky. And, I'm trying to navigate that all the time. And Marlo would be like, "Woo, girl, are you over there sweating? It's okay. It's okay." And I'm like, "Oh, I just want everybody to be friends." But yeah, it's a tricky space, but at the same time, I think for me this season, I'm like, look, ain't nobody telling me who I could be friends with. Like, this is what it is. And for that reason too, I bump heads with a few people this season as well.
Who do you feel closer to after this season?
So I definitely am closest to Marlo. I talk to Marlo almost every day. But I'm also still really close with Kandi and Sheree. Like, her and I connect with them a lot too. And then, Drew and Kenya, we're good. We just don't communicate as much or hang out as much.
You think Kenya and Marlo, it's just, they both realize it's time to call it. Some people are just not meant to be friends.
I think so. And I hate it because I honestly feel like they are more alike than they are different. And I don't know what it is with these two, why they can't ever find like common ground. It's like there's always something that pulls them apart in like a very dramatic way. Like, whenever I feel like we're getting close to some resolution, it's like we go to the polar opposite end of that. And I'm just like, why?
Do you think this season was a pileup on Kandi? Because it seems like that from the trailer. But then, like, you have like Marlo and Sheree just did an interview